Modern Italians, no matter what, are always proud of their history, as they are descendants of the Romans, proud conquerors who created one of the greatest empires in world history. The memory of the greatness of Rome more than once supported the Italian people in the most difficult moments of its history. Although, to be honest, there is little left of the Romans in modern Italians, because the Apennine Peninsula from ancient times attracted everyone who could, and each of the conquerors left their mark here, taking an active part in the creation of the modern Italian people, including so disliked by modern Italians, barbarians, Germans, of which the greatest influence in Italy had the Lombards, who created one of the strongest European GA. It so happened that in the person of the Lombards, Europe, for the first time, long before the Viking campaigns, met with fierce guys from Scandinavia, because originally the Germanic people Vinulov, self-name of the Lombards, lived in the south of Sweden, from where in the 1st century AD it was driven out by the Little Ice Age. Having crossed the frozen Baltic Sea to the lower reaches of the Elbe, the Vinuls soon continued their movement southward, fleeing the cold weather on their heels and fighting with the peoples living in continental Europe for a place in the sun. The name Lombards is associated with these wars, under which they entered history. In one of the battles with a superior in numbers enemy Vinuls, to achieve equality in numbers, put in the ranks of all who could hold a weapon, even their women, who for the impressiveness of the army and the formidable appearance of the warriors put on false beards. The stratagem failed, the Vinuls were broken and became the subject of ridicule, like, they even have bearded women. When this information reached Italy, they did not understand the irony in this nickname, and gave the Vinuls the name Lombards, Italian for long-bearded, because of their understanding and ideas about the next horde of barbarians who broke in from the north. In general, this story was one of the few times when the Lombards were laughed at, and certainly when they were defeated on the battlefield. The Lombards were strong and skillful warriors, and especially their fighting qualities improved in the 5th century, when they reached the Roman province of Noric, Austria, where they entered the service of the Western Roman Empire. In the person of Lombards, Roman emperors received reliable and brave soldiers, who more than once saved Rome from external and internal enemies, and Lombards adopted from the Romans the principles of organization of the army, state power, and society, in contrast to the rest of the Germanic tribes had a rigid caste structure, at the top of which stood the aristocrats, military service nobility. Below them were the free community members, followed by serfs who worked on the land of the aristocrat, and at the very bottom of the social ladder were the slaves, who were in complete dependence on their master. A representative of the aristocracy or free community member also adopted the model of the Roman attitude to the subjugated peoples, expressed in the formula slave or dead. After this transformation and the final fall of the Western Roman Empire, Lombards moved to Moravia and Pannonia in order to conquer the kingdom of Gepids that existed there. But if with Gepids, Lombards coped quite quickly. The Slavs, who were actively moving into Bohemia, eventually broke their teeth, not wanting to be destroyed. The Slavs, having made an alliance with the Avars who came from Mongolia, knocked the Lombards out of Eastern Europe, forcing them to continue their wanderings in search of the Promised Land. Once again expelled from the lands they considered their own, the Lombards, under the leadership of King Albane, invaded Italy. Before this significantly changed. Firstly, slavery was abolished. All Lombard slaves were given freedom, but remained serf-dependent on their former master, which increased social mobility in Lombard society. Also, Christianity was adopted as the state religion by the Lombards, according to the Nicene Creed, and the policy towards the conquered peoples was softened. Such changes allowed the Lombards to conquer the entire Apennine Peninsula in a short time, with equal success defeating both the Goths and the Byzantines, as well as protecting Italy from the Slavic invasion. Having completed the complete conquest of continental Italy, except for the papal area as a tribute left under the control of the Pope, the Lombards began to actively put it in order, and it turned out that to be builders in this people turns out to be no worse than warriors, as evidenced by the numerous monuments of the Lombard era, abundantly scattered throughout Italy and the cities of northern Italy, revived and rich thanks to the Lombards. At the end of the 8th century, infighting in the Langobard kingdom upset the delicate balance of power on the Apennine Peninsula, and using the protection of the Pope as a pretext, the Franks led by Charlemagne invaded the Langobard kingdom. After several wars, of which the most famous and destructive was the last war, the Langobard kingdom was destroyed. Charlemagne was crowned Lombard king, and the Lombards themselves eventually mixed with the local population, leaving their name to the most developed area of modern Italy, Lombardy.